So I welcome you all to today's event, Nelson Mandela International Day. We are clearly inspired by his actions and wisdom, and there is still even more to know about him. And here are coming up a few points about him to share and his incredible leadership qualities. His birth name is Rolihlahla Mandela, and his primary teacher gave him the name Nelson. So he began his long road to college degree at the University College of Port Hare in 1931. He was expelled for participating in a protest against the university's policies. Mandela eventually received his law degree from the University of South Africa in 1989. During the last month of imprisonment, he received honorary degrees from more than 50 universities. After leaving the University College of Port Hare, the king of his village threatened him and his cousin with arranged marriages. They both ran away to Johannesburg to avoid the marriages. He also fell along with ANC member Oliver Tambo, established South Africa's first black law practice in 1952. His practice primarily worked in challenging apprehended laws, including South Africa's past laws, which required non-white citizens to carry documents authorizing their presence in restricted areas. In order to leave the country, which he was banned from doing, he used his name David Motshani to get out of South Africa in secret. His activism continued while in prison, both inside and outside the walls. He was a mentor to other prisoners and taught them about nonviolent resistance. He also sent notes to the outside world and was a consistent symbol for the anti apartheid movement. He loved sports and even used them as part of his activism. He believes that sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair. It is more powerful than government in breaking down racial barriers. He was released from prison in 1990 by President Frederick William de Klerk. The two now share a Nobel Prize. 2020 marks 30 years since his release from prison. He advocated for HIV and AIDS after one of his sons passed away from AIDS related illness. Mandela's public announcement of his son's condition helped break the stigma of the disease in the South Africa. Let us give publicly to HIV AIDS and not hide it, because the only way to make it appear like a normal illness, like tuberculosis, like cancer, is always to come out and to say. The year he was elected president of South Africa was also the first year he ever voted in election, in 1994. He was 76 years old back then. Now let us look at the leadership qualities he possessed, which made him incredible and which made him stand apart from the other world-class leaders. He was a man of peace. He had a powerful presence and disarmed enemies with his smile, and he showed the world what forgiveness looks like. He was positive, thinking about that what could be done. He was a visionary and could see the bigger picture. He was focused on goals and mission beyond himself. He had remarkable endurance. He showed grit and determination. He was humble. He was full of hope, not hate, and he was very patient. Describing who he was and what he did is powerful. Perhaps even more important, what he didn't do. He held no bitterness. He did not speak revenge. He did not seek any self glory. He didn't hide his faults or failings. As we boarded the ferry, the return to Cape Town, I watched Robben Island disappear from view. Then, motivated and inspired by an imperfect man who suffered for his dreams and yet never lost hope. Now, a little bit about our community and by UCI. So, YUCI is a youth-run organization with a central team of passionate and enthusiastic young individuals driven to bring changes by providing development programs and opportunities. YUCI is dedicated to strengthening the youth community and helping them achieve success in sustainable development. YUCI is not restricted to organizing lectures and seminars or activities through social media. We want to entitle youth through effective action and aid them to become the backbone to a better society. So, I now welcome our chief guest, Mr. Milanji, and as he couldn't join with us. So, I'll just read about him, and Mr. Ravi Kumar sir can deliver his message. Dr. Milan Kamble. He is a civil engineer, entrepreneur, policymaker, and the founder chairman of Dalit Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, DICCI, the first Indian Commerce Association to promote entrepreneurship in the oppressed Dalit community of India. He is the recipient of Padma Shri at 2013, the fourth highest civilian honor conferred by the Government of India. On the 8th convocation of Baba Saheb Bhimrao Roy Ambedkar, Central University Lucknow awarded the honorary doctorate degree in Doctor of Science, DSc, honoris causa to Sir Milan Prahlad Kamble. So Milan Kamble is known for his out-of-box thinking and decisions. Even though the facility of reservation was available to him, he refused to accept a job under quota. Even when enrolling his daughter for her graduate program, he did not avail this facility. Awards and recognition Mr. Kumble got is a big list. Padma Shri, India's fourth highest civilian award in 2013, Samaj Bhushan, Government of Maharashtra in 2015, Yodgaya Ratna in 2011, Bhim Ratna in 2010, and many more civil society. And he is currently holding 14 different positions in the Indian government. Sir, now I request you to deliver Mr. Kamble's message.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great privilege for us to participate in the on the occasion of the birthday celebrations of the great human personality Nelson Mandela ji. It's a great if you read and know about Nelson Mandela ji, we get a lot of inspiration. Because if a person can dedicate for a particular cause and without losing the hope at any point of in his lifetime, he was constantly struggling, and in spite of the various odds, various different circumstances, he could able to face with determination and achieved what he wanted. So in the history, in the world history, the Nelson Mandela remains in the hearts of every revolutionary, and those people who are fighting for the equality, those who are working for the freedom of an individual, will be a great inspiration for Mr. Mandela's life is a great inspiration. As far as India is with a Bharat Ratna, which is the highest civilian award in the country, and also we had the privilege of our he addressed the joint session of the Indian Parliament, and the so many politicians have inspired by his great speech on this occasion. So with this, I congratulate you for organizing this program, and let's derive the inspiration from Nelson Mandela's life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing his wonderful words. Now I request introduce our another chief guest, Dr. Engineer Mohammed Ismail, Doctor Facility of Engineering Electrical Department, member of the Foreign Relations and African Affairs Committee of the Egyptian Engineers Syndicate, and raptor of the Community of Governance, Integrity, Transparency, and Anti-Corruption at the Egyptian Syndicate of Engineers, member of the Strategic Planning Committee of the Federation of African Engineering Organization. Sir, I request you to deliver your speech now. Mohammed, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Our topic today is about great Nelson Mandela, who was a figure of anti-apartheid. Uh, Apartheid, the suffering of blacks of time in a time of discrimination between blacks and white because of the occupation, who was preventing them from entering exam, restaurant, using transportation, etc. Childhood of the Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is one of the figures that was fighting for anti-apartheid in South Africa. He was born in Viso, South Africa at 18th of July 1918. His father was Henry Mandela, chief of Viso. At the age of 16, Mandela attended the Clark Berry Boarding Institute to study Western culture. He spent his childhood in Tembo. He has an honorific name, Madiba, given from his clan. For the education and early career, Nelson attended Methodist missionary schools, enrolled at the University of Fort Hare in 1938, befriended Oliver Tambo, both expelled in 1940 for political activism, worked in law, and he have a lot of activities and provided and studied law at the University of Witwatersrand, opened firm with Oliver Tambo in 1952, first black African legal practice. Uh, Next slide, we can talk about political activism for Nelson Mandela. Joined the African National Congress in 1944. He was the president of ANCYL in 1951. Then he banned from ANC in 1952, and Mandela was banned for a period of 6 months in December from attending meetings or talking to more than one person. So his ANU Transvaal presidency became impractical. For his travel and arrest on 30 July 1952 under the law of eradication of communism, Mandela was arrested and tried in Johannesburg as a part of 21 defendants. Uh, the release of Nelson from the prison in Cape Town on 11 February 1990 was the most striking symbol of the end of apartheid in South Africa. His dramatic walk from the gates of the prison hand in hand with his wife Winnie captured the world's imagination. For his cooperation with some countries like Egypt and also Indian Malaysia, Indian people helped in the development of South Africa during occupation. Egypt was from the first countries in the world to have the ANC as African National Congress office. Egypt was supporting African fighters with weapons to resist racial discrimination against the foreign colonizers. He was given the Honorable Doctor from Cairo University at Egypt. Nelson always has the President Gamal Abdel Nasser as his idol. When he visited Egypt 1992, he visited his grave and said, I was there at the tip of the content growing up on my tiptoes to see me. Sorry, my date with you is 25 years late. The real contribution of Nelson Mandela in the society is number one, removing apartheid. Then on May 10, 1994, Nelson Mandela officially became the first black president of South Africa, succeeded in reconciling tribes and races in South Africa, encourage the handling of apartheid crimes in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Under Mandela leadership, the government introduced equality of assistance for the community, including disabled people assistance, child care assistance, and elderly pension funds, which were given a level of improvement for various South Africa racial groups. Mandela encourages other countries to resolve conflicts through diplomacy and reconciliation. Free health services were provided for children under 6 years of age and pregnant women. A regulation whose coverage was extended to all users of basic level public health service in 1996. In September 1998, Mandela was appointed and movement and held its annual conference in Durban. He used this program to criticize the narrow and chauvinistic interests of Israel government for hampering Palestinian conflict and forcing India and Pakistan to end the Kashmir conflict. Inspired by the economic boom in Egypt, Mandela began to strengthen ties with East Asia, especially with Malaysia, despite being crisis. Me as at Egyptian syndicate of engineers, which includes 800,000 engineers, we are inviting you to cooperate with us parity. We have a capacity building program with many countries like Uganda, Zambia, Chad, Rwanda, Tanzania, a lot of countries we of the Egyptian and all countries join proposing an idea which is having a connection periodically on any group that can communicate us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very enlightening. Now I introduce our next speaker, Mr. Ravi Kumar Nara. So, Mr. Ravi Kumar Nara, weathering many storms, rose to a most respectable human person in the spheres of a social service and business enterprise. Ravi Kumar Nara was bestowed with the fourth highest civilian award, Padma Shri, in the year 2014 by Government of India in recognition for his contribution to the growth of Indian industry. He is the first Dalit entrepreneur to be awarded Padma Shri from South India. uh, Mr. Ravi Kumar is a member of National Task Force on Affirmative Action Committee of Confederation of India Industry, that is CII. Mr. Ravi, in association with the CII, organized vendor development meets, imparted skill enhancement and professional trainings to enhance professional competencies among the existing SC/ST entrepreneurs and skill enhancement programs for aspiring entrepreneurs towards elimination of manual scavenging. Mr. Ravi, under the aegis of DICCI and in coordination with Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Supply and Sewage Board, formulated a business model to merchandise the scavenging activity. The successful business model, which turned 70 scavengers into entrepreneurs, has caught the attention of PMO, who are now advocating to various state governments to imbibe the business model and attain manual scavenging free India. Fascinated by this model, Delhi state government promoted Delhi Jal Board to modernize the scavenging activity and thus offer the work to existing Safai Karmacharis only. In this way, about 200 Safai Karmacharis have soon to turn into entrepreneurs. And in this way, Mr. Ravi and his DICCI associates are relentlessly touring across the country to transform scavengers into entrepreneurs. Mr. Ravi induced agitated management system to execute professional sewage service executively by introducing preventive maintenance, safety precautions, professional management, and by facilitating the government department and has been made people friendly. By this, it is also benefited to government, public, as well as Safai Karmacharis for providing employment. Sir, it's a great work you are doing for the country, and all the best to you for the rest of the works. And now I request you to deliver your speech, sir.
Thank you, Mritila, for introducing me. And good afternoon, everybody. Today is a great day for the world to remember the liberation movement held under the dynamic leadership of Sri Nelson Mandela. His movement, we cannot call him just a civil right movement or a freedom movement. It was a liberation movement for the enlightenment of the entire humanity. Therefore, the fight of Nelson Mandela was not confined to South Africa. It has a universal appeal and relevance. And we compare because in India, the Gautama Buddha, the spiritual leader who worked for the reforms in the Indian society, he was born rich and came out of the rich background and worked for the poorer section and worked for the societal needs. So similarly, Mr. Mandela is also from a royal, born in a royal family, but he was not confined to the comforts of the royal family, but he has made up his mind to fight against the injustice, against the apartheid, and to get the freedom for to liberate the entire African people from the uh, uh, clutches of the whites in the country. So when you go through the Nelson Mandela's life history, and he was on par with Mr. Oliver Tambo and Mr. Walter Isizulu, who like that. In a ideologically, he is a African nationalist and a socialist. And African National Congress, that is ANC, to lead the South African freedom struggle was formed in 1912 to work on the lines of the Indian National Congress. Mandela joined the ANC and being a follower of the Gandhian ways of resistance, but turned as a insurgent military leader after Sheffield massacre in 1960, in which 69 unarmed protesters were killed and 180 people badly injured. And Mandela became the first leader of military wing of ANC by name of Spear of the Nation in 1961. During 1960s, the ANC was engaged in targeting a sabotaging government facilities. In 1962, Mandela was arrested on the charges of sabotage and was sentenced for life along with Isizulu and others. He spent 28 years in prison, whereas the Gandhi spent 11 years. So the 28 uninterrupted period, that is so long period, the country, the nation, the international human kind has to learn that if a person is confined 28 years continuously, and definitely I think he has to have the mind changed. But instead of changing, the Nelson Mandela has increased his commitment. He never ever had a single doubt that the African struggle is not going to be successful. He has such a confidence in his leadership, and he has such a confidence on his ideology, and he has such a confidence on the people of African people who were supporting all his activities. So the commitment of Mr. Mandela is exemplary, and anybody who will learn about his history, and he'll be inspired by the commitment which he has. And even during 1970s and 80s, the ANC leadership in exile under Tambu continued the legacy of Mandela with support of the USSR. So these insurgency activities caused ANC to be classified as a terrorist organization by governments in South Africa and the Western countries, including the US and the UK. But with the end of the Cold War in 1991 and increasing pressure from the international community, the change of mind by the Western powers who were supportive of their white fraternity in South Africa and conciliatory tone of ANC changed the political landscape of South Africa. So, State President FWD Clerk unbanned the ANC and other organizations on 2nd February 1990 and initiated the peace talks. The first black head of in South Africa is Nelson Mandela ji, and he was a fully elected representative in a democratic election. And he was focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid and racism and racial cancellation. But he never tried to take a revenge against the whites. Instead, he tried to reform them. He tried to change their mindset, and he tried to rectify the mistakes done in the history. So, in that way, he has governed the South Africa in a very befitting manner, being the first president, and he has paved the way for the African development, South African development, and he was a great inspiration to the entire world. And he's a statesman of highest order, and is a recipient of dozens of international honors. If you see his profile, I think he is the only person in the world who might have received such recognitions from the all the parts of the world. And he has abolished apartheid in 1994 and is still continuing. And one thing is there, he has followed the footsteps of Mr. Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and so many other people who has worked for the civil rights movement, including the uh, 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 including the Martin Luther King. So in this way, the trend set by the Nelson Mandela is a great inspiration for the entire humankind. And even today, we are remembering him. And on the day of his birthday, and it shall be a great tribute for such a great personality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughtful. And we invite the next guest.
Yes, Mritula. Uh, Hello, Mritula.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Is our next speaker is if you're having any connectivity issue, we can have the next speaker.
Yes, sir. The next speaker is coming up, sir.
When he will join, we will continue with him also. Okay, just like
Oh,
alternate
okay.
till he get connected to us, connected with us.
Yeah, speaker is here, and yeah, I'm waiting for the people to introduce her. So, a
Yes,
speaker
please.
is here.
Yeah. Please.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, Lorraine, ma'am. We welcome you to today's event.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And we are very happy to have you here to deliver your speech for the Nelson Mandela Day. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. You can start your speech.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for this, and a happy Mandela Day to everyone. So I would like to, I introduce myself first. My name is Lorraine Mora. I'm from Kenya, and I am a young leader with the International Aid Society and the Generation Equality Forum. I also work for the Eastern Southern African Youth Alliance on HIV and sexual reproductive health and rights. So I'd like to start with a Nelson Mandela quote, which says, "Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fell down and got back again." Today, we are celebrating Nelson Mandela, and knowing Nelson Mandela from what we have read, from what we have experienced, Nelson Mandela was a leader who thrived during resilience. And in the last almost 1.5 years, we have had a crisis, a worldwide crisis. And we have seen some leaders who have thrived, some who have not really thrived, and some who are just hanging in there. But we are not going to judge their successes just because it was a success. Rather, we're going to judge them by how many times that they fell down and still managed to come up. We saw countries that actually were extremely overwhelmed by the coronavirus, but some of them just thrived despite everything that was happening. And as leaders, not only world leaders, but even country leaders, even as ourselves, we are leaders in our own perspectives. And you know as a person that you're a good leader from how you are able to hold yourself accountable, from the empathy that you have, from your humility, from your resilience, your vision, your influence, and your positivity. Because during the last 1 year, being positive during these hard times was one of the hardest things to do. And we saw some leaders just come out and encourage their people. We saw people in different community and grassroots be able to come up and just encourage other people that we are going through this together. And most of the time, we look at leadership as one huge ball, but rather it is those small impacts we make in our daily lives that actually really matter. Those small steps. I remember last year, the president of Rwanda was leading the campaign like from the forefront, and it made me so happy because he was coming down to the ground. He was personifying the whole crisis. Because if we continue looking at crisis as something that is someone else's problem, or someone else is coming to solve the problem, then we will never be able to move forward. But the minute we personify it, the minute we humanize it, and we realize this is our problem, we are going to solve it. I am going to solve it as a community leader. I am going to solve it as a family leader. I am going to solve it as a grassroots leader. I am going to solve it as a country leader. Then that is when you start getting the solutions. That is when you start moving from that point of it is their problem to it is our problem. And once you personify that problem, it actually makes you I don't want to say a good leader, because of course I know they are bad leaders, but it makes you like you're in charge during a crisis, because leadership quality is needed every other time during a crisis. Because during a crisis is when you're tested, when you're tried, when you don't even know what you're dealing with, but people look up to you to what are you dealing with. Let me give you like an example that we go through day to day. Ideally, the leader of a house is a father. So when something is missing in a house and something has to be, a decision has to be made on how do we get this, or how do we solve this problem, it is people look up to the father to, hey, how are we going to solve this? And the minute you start looking at a problem from that perspective, it actually gives you a way of moving forward. Because the crisis we are facing, we are seeing some people not responding very well, and then we are seeing other people responding very well. So what are the ones who are responding well doing right that the ones who are not responding well are not doing? First of all, there is the issue of clear communication. Communication has been has lacked during this crisis, we have lacked communication in very many aspects, and we have seen silence. The people you expect to talk don't talk. That is why I go back to my example of the father. When you expect a father to respond and he is not responding, then you look at each other like, what do we do next? So the response in some places was not very good. In some other places, the response was fine. The communication kept coming. And I know that everybody else was trying to be there, hang in there, and just do the right thing. But there are times when in crisis, everybody is panicking. So to be able to ease in the panic, communication is always key. You have to ensure that you are telling your people what is happening. That is why countries who, for example, my country in Kenya, every other day we have the numbers keep coming in, and I think the general public has reached a place where they don't feel the need for that kind of communication. But I feel it's okay, because we need to know that the virus is still with us. We are not able to solve it. Some of us are still figuring it out 1.5 years later, but that doesn't mean that we should stop the communication. The communication has to always be there so that people know what are we dealing with. We have being ready. When the coronavirus came, we were not ready. Most of us were not ready. Most countries in the world were actually not ready. And the gaps in the healthcare system were felt, and they were seen across the world. And in some countries, it was bad, that in some other countries. And even with the COVID throwing us overboard, we never took time to say, how do we go back to the drawing board and try to prepare ourselves better? Some people just got lost with the waves. Some others tried to stay calm. And I think that calmness during a storm is one of the major superpowers that most leaders have, because dealing with a crisis, and then you have to stay calm and you have to act like you're ready, and the waves keep changing. Currently, my country is looking towards the 4th wave. So you see that readiness of, okay, now what's happened? What is going to happen in the next wave? That readiness, there's some people who don't have it, and then some who actually have it. So as a leader, that readiness creates the calm in the whole storm, in your storm. And this is the storm we're talking about. And one of the things is, as we are fighting COVID, the world's problems are still there. Yes, we are getting ready for this wave and the next wave, but the problems of the world are still there. Hunger is still there. Poverty is still there. Other diseases are still there. How ready are we to tackle the other problems? Because as leaders, that is a challenge that we have to face. How ready are we for the other challenges that are facing us day to day? War is still there. Political instability is still there. So are we ready for those other problems? Are we ready to deal with them? Because everybody has been saying, after COVID, we are going to do this. But COVID has been here for 1.5, almost 2 years now. Are we ready to now address everything in general, or we are going to keep postponing the other problems? Because every other problem still continued despite the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think it's time we went back to the drawing board. And so how do we go through all of these things together as leaders? Because most leaders have not really reached that point where they are figuring both situations. And we have seen that countries have gone into war. We have seen maternal deaths are still happening. We have seen other diseases still going on, and they're killing people. And we are still trying to figure everything out. So I'm not saying that we can handle it perfectly, but we need a readiness plan. I can say that. I don't know if that is supposed to be a thing, but we need a readiness plan, in that as we are dealing with COVID, yes, it's here, yes, it's with us, but how do we handle the other problems that will come? Because other problems from a day-to-day life, they are going to be there. So how do we make this balance, because life moves on, but then we are in the middle of a pandemic that we also have to balance. I'd like to say as I am finishing, so that I don't take too much time. As leaders, we have a challenge. We are living in times where a lot of things are not predictable. A lot of things are beyond our control, but we need to learn some lessons from Nelson Mandela, the man who we are celebrating today. Mandela went to prison, but still held his fort tight. He fought apartheid, but still held his fort tight. And that was probably his superpower. And as leaders, we have our own superpowers where we find ourselves in situations where we have to make decisions, we have to go through the problems that life throws at us. We have to stay calm at a point where everybody else is giving you pressure and expects solutions from you when you are also
Ma'am, you're stuck. I guess there's some problem with your network connection. Okay, I guess we lost Doreen, ma'am. So we can go with our next speaker. So next speak.
Yes, Mritula, our next speaker, Nawabi ma'am.
No, sir, it's Gugu, ma'am. We are just transferring her to the main room. Just a second, sir.
Yes, please, please.
Pallavi, you can start with Gugu, ma'am.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. I feel honored to introduce Gugulethu Swain, the Deputy Director General for Institutional Planning and Support for the South African Department of Science and Innovation. She holds a master's in business leadership from the University of South Africa's School of Business Leadership and Advanced Management Develop program, from Gibbs and a degree in biotechnology. She is motivated, well grounded, solutions driven, cross functional strategic thinker with an ability to analyze complex situations. She sees herself as an empathetic and empowering leader. Her core is business and operational strategy, planning, and reporting. Other areas of competence include operations oversight, strategic communications, audit, risk and compliance, business development, project management, governance, and strategic stakeholder relations. She is highly independent and excellent communicator with an ability to work under pressure with a diverse stakeholder base. She has held several senior and executive management positions with some of the key South African state owned entities, such as our Agricultural Research Council, the South African Forestry Industry, the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone, and the cross border road transport industry, amongst others. Apart from her executive role, she balances that with being a mother of two sons and a daughter. She is also a gardener who does some painting and sewing. She is also very much involved in her church's outreach programs, which looks after the poor and the vulnerable through providing food parcels, care packs, and any other useful donations from the congregations. I'm honored and pleased to welcome you, ma'am. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from South Africa. I hope I'm visible from that side. I don't have the best network this end, but I'll try my best. As introduced, my name is Gugu Zwane. I work for the Department of Science and Innovation. Thank you very much for this opportunity to celebrate the greatest man ever to come out of our country, Dr. Nelson Mandela. We've had quite a rough week as South Africa. I'm sure you've seen in the news. And this could not have been a better time for us to take a step back and remind ourselves of the values that came from Dr. Mandela and what he stood for as we try to rebuild our country considering the recent crisis. I really enjoyed Doreen's talk as a young woman on leadership and all the traits that she had highlighted. I'm also starting with a quote from Dr. Mandela, which says, "Lead from the back and let others believe they are in front." My take on leadership in general is that I'm always conscious of leadership, not only from a corporate perspective, but also my personal life. Somehow I believe that these two should balance. How I lead at home, exactly like Doreen was saying it, I was sitting there thinking she's speaking to exactly what I'm going to talk to. How I lead at home and being an inclusive leader, and also taking some of the things that I learn from that leadership on the home front to the corporate space at work, where I have to understand at home that I'm not the only person that occupies the space. There are other people that must have their say in the running of the household. That's the kind of leadership that I also put forward in my workplace. What does this mean? It means that I am very much aware of the leadership traits that influence my personal space and also beneficial to my role as an executive. I would like to just advise young people as I speak to take some of the pointers based on my own experience as I grew in my career. Some of it I wish I had woken up earlier to say, oh, in my 20s, this would have worked better. But I also believe that everything happens for a reason. We just have to note the journey of our life. How does it help them to become a leader that can balance both your personal and your corporate side? It's because it's something that you have lived. You are able to relate your truth. It's my journey, it's my story. People these days are looking for authentic leadership. You can't go out there and be claiming that you are something that you are not. And in the long run, as a leader, you need to be aware of your purpose, find your personal purpose. What is it that I was brought here to do, or the difference that I was brought here to make in this world? It's brave conversations that you need to have with yourself, but at the same time, as you are trying to find your purpose and implement it, even in your workspace, you must still be aware that the business has its own purpose. I always follow the lady by the name of Bridget Hyacinth. She is always talking about putting human back into human resources. Over time, we have become digital as people, even the way that we do things. We are pushing revenue at a cost of whatever. What then matters is that we have the numbers, we can say we've achieved the company's goals at the expense of ignoring empathy. It's important that as a leader, you are empathetic. As empathy has now over the years been overlooked as a soft skill or misinterpreted. People think that if you're an empathetic leader, you are a walkover, you are too soft, you must be authoritarian and be pushy and be bully sometimes even. And yet, if you're an empathetic leader, you understand the needs of others and you are also aware of their feelings and thoughts. That goes a long way into creating a team that works well, teams that have got synergy. You must also, as a leader, be inclusive. And as I go along, I am sure we can all see these traits in the Mandela kind of leadership. At some point, we've lost the ball somehow, we've dropped the ball because people have become quite selfish in their leadership. You must be an inclusive leader with the capacity to develop relationships with people that are very different from you. That is like socio-economic status, cultural, political views, and so on. Be a leader that involves your team and create meaningful connections, really, really meaningful connections. And people will always feel it if you are not genuine. We are called to be servant leaders. Once we take a step back, it stops being about me and thinking that I'm here to serve. The perspective is completely different in how then you move forward as leading a leader, leading a team, or leading wherever, in whatever space that you are in, starting with leading self. Be a humble leader. A humble leader will always listen, will always communicate, will always be transparent. You share knowledge, you engage people that you work with, you facilitate innovations, you encourage innovations, and you encourage healthy debates. It's not my word or the highway kind of environment, but I must also be willing to listen to others and even implement their ideas, because the whole point is that we are all for the same goal. And have a strong vision as a leader. It should not be shakeable. Other things are flexible. You could have a flexible strategy depending on what is happening at that time. Are we ready for crisis? We can alter our strategy, but what is our biggest vision? What do I want to achieve as a leader? What do we want to achieve as a team? What do we want to achieve as an organization? Even the vision that we would have for our children, and you start planning early because as a parent, you have a particular vision for your family, which you would then tweak along the way as life happens, but the focus would be on that main vision. It's important to create an environment of trust where you allow people to have safe spaces without using their struggles to remind them of their weaknesses. I've had experiences where you have a leader who, when you tell them of stuff that you are going through in confidence, maybe it's something that's happening at home, all of a sudden the same person is talking about it in a meeting to make you feel small. And it's important to be a leader that understands that people are going through a lot, and not many of us would find people that we want to speak to in confidence, or they just do not exist. So sometimes you go to somebody at work and you confide just because you want to offload and you just need support at that time. It's not good then to use that to then see it as a negative in terms of somebody's lives. And people must be encouraged as teams that we hold each other, we share each other's burdens. If we are going through COVID right now, do check-ons on each other. What are you going through? Are you fine? Have you vaccinated? How has it treated you? I remember that you had a parent that was not well. How is it going? Just be there for each other. It goes a long way. We always think being there for each other means monetary terms. It's not the case. It's just caring and showing that you are always in consistent reminder and thoughts of others that are going through stuff. Motivate your people, recognize their achievements. They must also feel each day when they wake up, how do I go and make make a difference in somebody's life? It could even be a colleague. It could be a granny crossing the street. If somebody felt better because of you, that is enough. For me, self-awareness is quite important. I also am a person that time and again recognizes my personal limits and learn from my mistake. If there's a problem or I'm not getting along with somebody, it could be a leader or a subordinate, I question, what is my contribution to this problem? What lessons am I being taught before moving forward? Because I also believe that some problems will not pass until you have acknowledged the lesson. Young people, be conscious of your life journey. Everything you go through, you are always being prepared for what is to come, always. If I can give an example, in my career as I was moving up, I would, like the lady that introduced me said, my core is strategy, M&E and planning. And you apply for a job, those are the job specs, but you get to a job 6 months down the line, a colleague resigns who is heading a particular, in my case, it was communications. I had not done anything in that field, but they were not ready to replace him. And then they said, here, you take this and take it. And before you know it, it's in your space, you are working on it. You move on and something similar happens. One day, you find yourself in a leadership position or that is being advertised with all these job specs where it all makes sense why you had to go through the things that you went through, because now you have experience of things that just landed on your lap. It's either you embrace them, you take them as opportunities, or you reject them. But all the time, at the end of the day, down the line, in hindsight, you will see why it had to happen. Use your intuition and your authenticity to also be very in tune with the values, to a point where you reject what is not aligned to your value system. It's fine to do that. Nobody's gonna hang you. It's your life. It's always very important to be in tune with yourself. If you are in alignment with what not to allow in your space, that is where you enhance your purpose and your leadership as well. Take risks, but don't be reckless. Anticipate change and be prepared and ready, like we are going through what we are going through now as a country. I don't think any of us saw it coming, but definitely going forward, I think we would act better so that we do not go through what we are going through again. And that's for us leaders within our own spaces, even in your own home. How do we make sure that if something like this had to happen again, we are ready for it? How do I make sure that if something have to happen again in my community or town, I'm ready for it? Take courageous leaps and dare to be different. It's okay to be different. Choose your battles, ask questions. Is it something really worth my peace and the peace of my team? And people like Nelson Mandela, it's quite important to go back and look at how they addressed certain issues. He could have come out and gone the other way to settle scores, but it's a reminder that what is it that is important to us as humanity as a whole? That's why sometimes there are things that you just need to let go. Take care of yourself as a person, because that is how you unleash your superpower, like Doreen said. Because once you look after yourself, delegate, take care of your health and everything else, so that you are in that zone where you are able to take a step back and jump in when society calls for your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. It was an insightful speech with knowledge of experience and the thoughtfulness of being a leader. As you mentioned, I would like to reiterate what you said. Compassion is the need of the hour. And now, being the new normal with COVID situation, it is important to take care of oneself and one's around. Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have our next speaker, Dr. Sibongsini.
Good morning, good afternoon. In his book, Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela stated, and I quote, "As I walked out the door towards the gates that would lead me towards my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison," end quote. We are living in times of a crisis. There is fear, bitterness, frustration, and anger. So many people, start my video. So many people are experiencing trauma and are losing hope. Many plans that people had have failed. There is no doubt that the era that we are in right now can be characterized as a syndemic. The CEO of the American Psychological Association, Dr. Arthur C. Evans, Jr., noted that the world is in the midst of a syndemic. The syndemic is the confluence of three biggest forces we are struggling with today. These are a dangerous, rapidly spreading disease, a political awakening to hundreds of years of racism and brutality, and a nascent mental health crisis that is fueled by the other two factors, as well as economic and political uncertainty. At the same time, the pandemic has exacerbated the socio-economic inequalities that are deeply embedded and which we continue to see in our society. So the question is, how do you continue to lead in such a crisis? What kind of leaders do we need in such a crisis? It is during this time that the importance of great leadership becomes critical and essential. This is the time when great leaders and great leadership are called to step up and show up. As we celebrate the Nelson Mandela Day today, we are reminded of the leadership lessons that we can learn from the leadership qualities and styles that Nelson Mandela taught us. The most important lessons, or rather lesson, is that leaders are real human beings. Nelson Mandela taught us and showed us that he was a real human being. He was not infallible. And also he taught us that we should not dehumanize human beings and leaders. Nelson Mandela taught us the following: leaders should motivate and influence people towards achieving a certain goal. So he rallied his people, rallied the nation towards a common goal, whereby everyone realized the benefit of achieving that particular goal. It was not a selfish goal whereby only certain individuals or a certain individual was going to benefit, but the whole nation saw that they stood to benefit if that particular goal was realized. President Nelson Mandela was an advocate for peace. He also taught us the following qualities of leadership, which are essential in the time of crisis that we are in today. Persistence. He continuously persisted towards the achievement of his goal for peace, for unity, and for inclusiveness. Humility. He always ensured that he was humble enough to listen and embrace different perspectives and different views. He did not look down upon any particular view, regardless of whether he agreed or disagreed with it. Empowerment. He ensured that people that he led were empowered and at the same time were able to confront him and disagree with him. He did not create an environment of fear where people were scared to confront him and tell him that they disagreed with him. Honesty, morality, responsibility, transformational, inspirational. He inspired his people towards that particular common goal. Building trust. His leadership was based on trust. His people believed in, trusted in him. They trusted that everything that he was saying, it was for the benefit of the whole nation. It was not just for his individual benefit. Ethical. Nelson Mandela did not abuse his leadership skills, talent, and his charisma. In addition, from President Nelson Mandela, we learned that leaders need to understand and acknowledge that there is a crisis in the first place, not to deny until things get worse. It's important that leaders acknowledge that there is a crisis, because it's only when we acknowledge that we are in a crisis that we can be able to take action and do something about it. Leaders need to understand that they do not have all the answers, and that is humility. That is where listening and seeking different views and different perspectives become critical. Because as a leader, I don't have all the answers. In the room, there might be people who know better than I do. So it's important that I listen and ensure that I take all views into consideration before I get to a particular decision. And that decision should be the decision that is embraced by everyone. Even if not everyone agrees with it, but everyone will be able to embrace it because they will be part of the process. When there is a crisis, it is tempting for leaders to think that they know what needs to happen. That is where it becomes important for leaders to listen and seek different views. Leaders also need to be transparent and consistent. They need to be honest and admit if they have made a mistake. Once leaders are not transparent, once they send different conflicting messages, once they show that they are dishonest, their people cannot continue to trust them. And once you lose the trust of your people as a leader, you cannot continue to lead. You would have failed as a leader. In addition, leaders must be willing to genuinely listen to the concerns of the people. It's one way to say that I'm listening, but only to find that you have already come to a particular conclusion. So this so-called listening is just going through the emotions. Effective leaders listen genuinely and listen with genuine concern before they come to a particular conclusion or decision. They should be able to make decisions even if there is no clear path forward, even if it's not clear. Effective leaders are able to make a decision because there is nothing worse than being indecisive as a leader. So leaders that are effective, leaders that are trusted by their people are able to make decisions and move forward. If the decision is wrong, they'll come back and apologize, admit that they've made a mistake, and that is being that is having humility. Leaders in a crisis need to share information that helps people. So they communicate, and they communicate effectively and consistently. And the communication of that information helps people to know what is happening all the time. So that people are not in the dark. They don't know how the leader came to this particular conclusion. They feel that we're not part of it. We're not consulted. And then they distance themselves from that particular decision. In a crisis, leadership is not just about talking. So it's one way just to talk for the sake of talking so that people see that you are present. It is not about deceiving people, telling people wrong information. Leadership is about listening effectively. It is about understanding the pain that the communities feel and experience, and the organization that the leader is serving. It is understanding that these people are angry, these people are frustrated, they are going through a pain. So it's important to understand that these people are going through all these different emotions, even if you do not agree with them as a leader, but it's important to move from that understanding. The effectiveness of a leader in times of crisis is entirely based on trust. As I indicated earlier, once trust is lost, a leader cannot continue to lead. It's important to understand that people are already upset, angry, and frustrated. Therefore, we need leaders who are particularly good at calming people down. When they show up, people understand them. Why? Because people trust them. Leaders in times of crisis are outward focused rather than focusing inwards towards their emotions, towards how they feel, but they are looking more at how people feel. They have the ability to calm people down because they are moving from that particular platform. Shared risks, people seeing that they are all in the same boat together. So as a leader, I need to depict that, to show that we're all in this boat together. And that is exactly what Nelson Mandela did. When people approached him with different concerns, either they were minorities, they were marginalized groups, they were majorities, but he listened and made all of them feel that we're all in this together. We cannot allow ourselves to perish together. So we are all in this together. We have to work together to find solutions together. Leaders in a crisis need to show care and concern. They need to show the ability of moving forward, facing the reality, not denying what is happening. They need to focus on purpose and shared vision. What is it that is binding all of us together, rather than focusing on things that are dividing us? Good leaders in a crisis understand that people help people, they help people and work with people. So they understand that help comes from people themselves. So they work with people so that people are able to help themselves. So they believe in the capacity of people so that the help comes from people themselves. So they do not impose decisions, but they work with people together with them so that the decisions and the help comes from people. So in other words, leaders in a crisis, they do not just stand up and tell people and give instructions of what needs to happen, because that is a recipe for disaster. The following are some of the important leadership qualities and aspects during a crisis: having common, consistent messages and clear messages, messages that are truthful and transparent, being empathic so that people understand that you as a leader understand that they are all in this together, and also that people are having stress and that people are having and experiencing difficulties. As a leader in a crisis, you need to express your own humanity, that you are a human being, you are not infallible, so that people are able to relate to you at an individual human level. And also it's important that leaders in a crisis show that they are realistic, even if they show that things are going to be better tomorrow. That hope must be based on realistic expectations so that people are not deceived. It's important that as a leader, you indicate, you show to the people that you are leading that there is hope, but that hope must be based on realistic expectations, on realistic positivity. We can all lead and lead effectively in our own spaces and spheres of influence. We do not need formal titles to become leaders. If we take the lessons that we learned from the leadership qualities that President Nelson Mandela taught us, we can ease the bitterness, anger, and frustration, and we can be able to lead better and in an effective manner during this crisis and beyond. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful speech, and thank you for reminding that humility and leader in crisis management are the two most important things when a leader takes charge. I'd like to quote Nelson Mandela: "A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination." Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Mr. Edward. He was an active youth leader during university days. He's currently the Netherlands Education Group Ambassador for Zambia, the NASA Youth Movement Zambia leader, and also the Turkey Training's international agent. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's about triumphing over it. It was again by Nelson Mandela. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I've been following the past speakers, and it's amazing how Mandela affected and touched a lot of people in terms of leadership and how leadership should be. As we celebrate Nelson Mandela's birthday today, he was born 103 years ago in South Africa, of course, and we know the story about Mandela and how great a leader he was, and the impact and the effect that is causing his leadership even up to right now. You know, they say great leaders live beyond their graveyards, and we are all here to testify what Nelson Mandela did to humanity, of course, and at African continent at large, and not to South Africa. So we as my name's, like I said, is Edward Mwabandalama from Zambia. Like the introducers already mentioned, I'm also a politician who's running for office in the next elections that will be held on the 12th August in Zambia. I've done politics for 20 years without a single corruption. So to me, Mandela is a great hero. And I've been always reading about him and his colleagues at his intake, like Mahatma Gandhi, NASA, Kenneth Kaunda. And the question now is that what are we going to learn as this generation? And what are we going to leave for the next generation as we pass on to the next life? Now, this is the question each and every person should ask. At personal level, I have learned a lot from Nelson Mandela. Mandela was a great person, a believer in the equality for all humanity. Nelson Mandela believed that his vision was beyond his personal life. His vision was beyond his lifespan. And we are able to see right now, even whether he's dead, but we are all talking about him. Why? Because of what he did to humanity. And this was his belief. Like I said again, the question is, you and me right now, what are we doing? What is that we've learned from this great son of the world, from this great son of Africa, from this great son of South Africa? What have we learned? That's the question that we should ask ourselves as leaders now, and the people that we want to pass on the mantle of leadership. What are we teaching the young people of our continent, of the world? What are we teaching them? I do believe that Mandela was a person who was driven by something bigger. He never cared about what car is driving. What moved him was the vision that drove him, the vision that he carried for humanity, the vision that he believed that humanity is equal. And we've seen when he came out of prison after staying there for 27 years, he never looked back and said, eye for an eye. He refused. This shows that great and strong leaders are those that forgive their fellow oppressors and those people that did something wrong to them. And this is what we need to preach as leaders of today and inculcate those morals in the leaders of tomorrow. Coming back to the youth of now, that we do have to understand the world actually is 70% is the youth. And when Mandela fought apartheid, it was in his context. We have a lot of apartheids right now happening in our continent at global stage as well. We are fighting corruption. Corruption is one of the apartheids that we need to deal with. We are fighting tribalism. We're fighting regionalism. These things are separating humanity. So how do we come together as human beings and foster love, empathy, and development for all the people? We need to think beyond ourselves. We need to think, what legacy are we going to leave when you are gone? When the Lord Almighty God calls us, when our time on earth is up? It's a question that each and every person should ask. When you wake up every day, you need to know that God has woken you up for a reason. You need to know that He is not yet done with you. You need to fulfill your purpose. So the most important thing to the youth, you need to know and ask your question yourself, why is it that I'm living right now? What is it that God created me to do on this earth? Because God never created any junk. Every person that God created in His own image, He created to do something that no one person can do that without that person. So going forward, we need to realize that it's not about me as an individual. It's about what is that I'm going to do to another human being or to another person, to my neighbor. What is it the difference that I'm making? Positively, of course, that one day when my time is up on earth, I'll be remembered to say, here lived a great man. A great man doesn't mean that you just have to have a bigger position or a lot of degrees of qualifications. We need to touch humanity in our own capacity. So how we move, like most of us that our leaders that have been to school, that are educated, we need to practice what we do and preach. We need to translate that what he learned in class and into practicality, because without action, there's nothing. Mandela was a lawyer, and he realized that for him, it was not just about money or getting money from the law fees and everything. He stopped practicing law and he started preaching the freedom for every person in South Africa, including those that were oppressing. Because the greatest oppressor of one's soul and life is the oppressor himself. So he wanted to liberate even those that were oppressing the Black communities, to show them what love is, because only love can liberate ourselves. Once you love another human being, you're going to be free. Your mind will be free. So this is what we need to move and learn from the life of Nelson Mandela. If we can preach oneness, regardless of the borders that we are created to separate us, we are human beings, we are all one. Our core, our root is one. So we need to come together, regardless of your race, regardless of your tribe, and look at another person as a human being, of course, with respect, with their personality. And you can only do that when you respect yourself. When you become aware of who you are and respect yourself, you're going to love and respect another fellow human being. And this was the belief of Nelson Mandela. So the preaching of today of our leaders, us leaders that want to be in key positions to prepare our communities, our countries, our churches, our mosques, our homes, we need to love ourselves as well as love other people. Only then we are going to make a difference in our lives. To the youth, you need to know that there can never be a future without you. For us leaders, we need to prepare a way for you and create that environment that is going to be conducive for you to develop your traits, for you to nurture your abilities, for you to nurture your God-given gifts. This is why, as leaders, again, we need to create that environment where our young people, our young leaders should prevail, should feel free to express themselves, should feel free not to be afraid to fail, because as you fail on the way, that's part of learning. I've heard about what my previous speakers have said already. You can never succeed without fail. So going forward to the young people, you need to know life is sometimes can throw a stone at your head, but it's how you respond to the challenges that you're facing that will determine where you're going to be. I'll give an example of myself. When I was growing up, I grew up without my parents. I grew up as an orphan, and I sponsored myself from grade 4. I know what it means to go to school with torn shoes, sometimes without knowing the next food, the next meal when it will be coming. But when we believe in ourselves, we believe in God, that the Creator created me for a reason, and only me is going to fulfill that purpose that the Lord Almighty God has created me for. Then you are going to realize that we are here for a purpose. And every morning that we wake up, we should know, what is it that I should do to another fellow human being, to advance their humanity, to appreciate who they are. Once we appreciate ourselves, we are going to appreciate other human beings. And this is the belief of Nelson Mandela. This is why we are talking about Nelson Mandela today. He is a great son of the world who believed in humanity, and he believed that humanity is one. Not just his belief, but he practiced what he believed in. So going forward, as leaders, as people that want to mentor and nurture the young people that are coming to take over from us, we need to empathize with them and show them that sometimes they're going to fail. It's part of learning. So going forward, the only thing I can say, Mandela is a great person who is going to live for many, many years to come, though he's late, but his legacy lives on. So it's up to you and me and every person who's listening to this program and celebrate the birth of Nelson Mandela, that we need to learn something. Let each and every person learn something from the life of Nelson Mandela. What I've learned is that there can never be humanity without love. Let's love one another. Let's love humanity, regardless of where you're coming from. You can be Indian, American, Black, Egyptian, Zambian. We are a one people. Once we move in that direction, it will be good for you, it will be good for me, it will be good for everyone else. Thank you so much. These are the few words that I had for this great day, and I'm honored that I was given this opportunity to speak about Mandela, who was a great son of the world and a great son of Africa as well as South Africa, who liberated and showed us that we can still exist regardless of where we're coming from, and forgive those that wronged us. Thank you so much. My name is Edward Mawandarama from Zambia.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very nice. And now I request the next speaker to come up.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah, so good afternoon. I'm Vijayata Joshi, and I'm from Youth United Council of India. Here we have our next guest joined. And let me introduce. It really makes me feel honored to introduce our speaker of this event. With great pleasure, I welcome Eucharia Noabi, Director, Exchange and Linkage Programs Unit at University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. They identify and establish linkages with national and international institutions, including tertiary institutions, research institutes, industry and donor agencies, etc., in order to promote capacity building, research, and academic program collaborations. The power of education extends beyond the development of skills we need for economic success. It can contribute to nation building and reconciliation. Young people must take it upon themselves to ensure that they receive the highest education possible so that they represent us well in the future as future leaders. This was quoted by Nelson Mandela. With this, I request the speaker to keep us engaged with her thoughts and ideas. Please, ma'am.
Eucharia, ma'am, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a lovely opportunity to be here. My name is Eucharia Oluchunwaichi, like I've been introduced. I am the Director of Exchange and Linkage Programs at the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. And I'm also the President of the Organization for Women in Science in the Developing World, University of Port Harcourt Chapter, and the National Vice President of the organization in Nigeria. As I reflect on the name that we mentioned today, Nelson Mandela, this name has gone across borders. It has gone beyond an individual. It is now a patent on his. Nelson Mandela stands for many things for me as an individual. He is a man, but he is a woman. A woman is someone who cares, who is ready to lay down life, to make sacrifice. This is what Nelson Mandela did. He said real leaders are ready to make sacrifices for the freedom of their people, to their community. How much sacrifices am I making? Right from when I heard the word Nelson Mandela, I have always asked myself, what is that sacrifice that I am doing or I want to do? Today is actually a real day for call for people to make sacrifice in their lives. Young, age, the old, nobody's exempted. He started his crusade as a youth, got arrested, came back and was older. He still got the mantle of leadership. So he has showed that along the spectrum, that you are not to be left out in the leadership race. You have a role to play. He remained an optimist. That means as leaders, we should resonate with hope, always hopeful for the best. world now. We should be hopeful that we can do it. He gave us courage. Courage, and he said it's not the absence of fear, but for us to triumph over fear. What is that limitation that we have as young people? Are we intimidated? Are we given the opportunity to live? We should take the opportunity from those who have it. Come out from your little corner. Is it voluntary job you're doing? Contribute without being paid money. Find the opportunity, look to your left, look to the right, look up, look down. There is an opportunity waiting for you to manifest as the leader, to make sacrifice, to become that shepherd of the people, to really contribute so that people can see exactly that the world has a lot of people who are shepherds, who are trying to make sure that the globe does not collapse in our time, that after our existence on earth, that we're going to hand over to people who will come back to see the world intact. What is our passion as leaders? That from the inside, that is what dying for. We should look out for that and highlight it and make sure we defend it. That defense is what brings out the courage in us because we believe in it. That conviction that will make us live forever. Nelson Mandela is living forever today. He has made me to know that it is not about the structures I'm able to put on this planet, the high-rising buildings, or how much money I was able to save in my account. A lot of you today are clamoring for wealth. This is not Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela had preached that we bring up human beings. When we raise human beings, we will live forever like today he is living. How many people have we lived as a child, as a youth, as an adult? How many people have we lived for? How many people have we raised? Mentoring, active mentoring. All time as we're doing our good work in different spheres of life, Nelson Mandela calls us continuously to make people, because it's the people that keep us forever. And when we make people, the world glows. Show compassion to people and have standards. We can't just conform to anything that comes around because we want to throw in to get some favor or the other. We should have a standard, believe in it, and be persistent, following through. That's the only way we can show that we are leaders. So today, the people of the world, my brothers, my sisters, wherever you are in the globe, let's rise up to the call by Nelson Mandela to be courageous, to be passionate, to raise human beings, for we will not regret raising people. As we sit back, when we are old and watch these people take over actively, we will see the world going and there'll be no regrets. We will live and die happily, and then we will continue living even after we have gone beyond. I thank you so much. Up Nelson Mandela, long live Nelson Mandela, long live South Africa, long live the whole world. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. It was a great speech indeed. You just highlighted that leadership always comes with passion and humanity as well. So which makes a leader a great one in a world. So it was really very enhancing fact about human beings. Thanks a lot about it. So
Thank you.
next, yes, ma'am. We have our next speaker with us here. It's an honor to have our great speaker here, and introducing her is really a part of my pleasure again. Fungwa Nyamukachi, strategic, yes?
Wait, one second.
Okay.
We are at the end of the session, and unfortunately, most of our speakers couldn't join us because of some network issues and other glitches. So now I request Mr. Manoj Aramne to deliver a vote of thanks. Before delivering his vote of thanks, I would like to give him a small introduction. He's the Vice President of DICCI Maharashtra, and he's a proprietor of MS Nirmek Aviation Private Limited. As experts in handling export and import sea shipments, that is FCL, LCL, air shipments, warehousing, trucking, and customs clearance. They have been in the industry since year 2007 and have provided premium services to a large amount of customers in different industries and in different countries. Based in Navy Mumbai with branch office Aurangabad city and overseas office in Dubai, UAE, are classified as A-class freight forwarder holding necessary licenses for international multimodal transportation. We provide total logistics services for in and out from India and Dubai as well. And sir, I request you to deliver the vote of thanks now.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you, team. Honorable chief guest, present, valuable speaker, audience joined through the online platform. Thank you, team of Youth Council and my dear friends. I thanks Mr. Siddharth Dabade, National Advisor of Youth Council and team of Youth Council for giving me opportunity to express my gratitude on this special day. It is the biggest day for us to be a part such a grand program in remembers of such a great personality, Nelson Mandela. On behalf of the Youth Council, I express my heartfelt thanks to chief guests from India, Egypt, Africa, South Africa, Nigeria. I would like to thank to all respected speakers who have inspired us with their thoughts. I would like to thanks organized team, principal, international, national advisor, and member of Youth Council. And finally, I thank everyone who contribute their effort directly or indirectly to make the successful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, Mritula, please carry on.
Yes, sir. It is done. I was just waiting for you. Sir, will Kamlesh join? Milan, sir. Hello. Siddharth, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Will Milan, sir,
Yeah,
join?
Manoj sir has completed it.
Yeah, no, I'm asking about Milan, sir.
Actually, he is in travel, and as we all aware that in India, it is a union government reshuffling is going on, and he is also has a vital role in it. So he is in our capital of India in New Delhi and in very busy schedule, but he is in travel, so is getting difficult in connectivity. So please carry on.
Okay, sir. The event is done, so that's why I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, please.
It is done.
Yeah.